Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Rockies Daily. I'm your host, Scott Harris, where we talk all things Colorado Rockies. Look, folks, I missed you on Friday. I've been battling a sickness, if you might have heard in the last episode. We're still getting through it. I have a bit of a cough. The objective of this video is getting through it without just yakking up a lung here. But we have a lot to talk about. The Rockies have made some moves. We've seen some moves in Major League Baseball that has caused an uproar, and so much to talk about. We've heard a little bit from Paul DePodesta, just a lot of different things that we need to cover since our last episode. On top of that, we had 100 subs. Thank you so much for watching, listening, sharing with your grandma, grandpa, father, and mother. In all seriousness, thank you for watching and tuning in. And whether you watch once or you watch all the videos, it just means a lot to just have a space where we can talk about the Colorado Rockies. So super, super cool. I really, really appreciate it. It means a lot. A 20-second thank you doesn't do it justice, but it really does mean a lot. So thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoy this video. Please continue to share, hit the like button, do whatever you need to do to help grow this thing. Again, really appreciate it. Let's jump into it, and let's talk about Willie Castro, who is signed with the Colorado Rockies, a name that we've been talking about since December. He was rumored, the Rockies were rumored to be interested in him, and then we didn't really hear anything. Then it was just quiet. We get to January. Rockies signed Michael Lorenzen. Okay. There's a little bit of life from this front office, and then just shortly after, they signed Willie Castro to a 2-year, $12.8 million contract. And look, this isn't the splashiest deal. Willie Castro struggled last year. He had 226, his slugging was 366, and his OPS was 679. So if anything, this is an opportunity for Castro to hopefully get right, as he was an all-star back in 2024. But look, he still has good arm strength. He still has decent speed. And most importantly, you can put him pretty much anywhere. He played 6 different positions last year. Now, his most starts came at second, but he played a ton in the outfield. He played a little at short. You can really put him anywhere, which is what the Rockies need. And it's another move where the Rockies go and get someone that just raises their floor. Because when you started this offseason and you looked at this roster, as we've noted, there were a ton of just glaring holes. There were a ton of places where you said, man, that is just not good enough. And I think the second base position, as well as first base, were 2 holes where it was just, hey, there's a lot of inexperience. Or at first, there's just no one there. But there's a lot of inexperience. And that's not to say Ryan Ritter Amador can't be the guy in the future. And really, maybe Ryan Ritter. I think for Amador, his ship might have already passed. I just don't see him turning it around, at least in Colorado. But you needed to get some more experience in the infield, and that's exactly what this signing is with Willie Castro. You get a veteran player who's made an all-star game that will, again, raise the floor, of a team that just desperately needs it. You need floor raisers on a team that won only 43 games last year. And so that's what this does. It gives Castro an opportunity to really bounce back in a hitter's friendly ballpark for an above average defender. So it's a move that I really like by this front office because it's not a super expensive deal. You're paying him just over $6 million a year. So it's a good move by this front office. It's a good move as they continue to trend in the right direction. Excuse me. But what's interesting is, we just heard reports that Paul DePodesta has made it really seem like this team is not done, that they're interested in more potential moves. And most likely at first base, another veteran starting pitcher or a veteran reliever. And it's just so funny because for the longest time during free agency, the winter meetings, I mean, they've got to be one of the biggest hoaxes in all of sports, right? Like, we are told the winter meetings going to be an explosion this year. Winter meetings. All of the big deals happen well after the winter meetings. And I understand, like, there's more to it. But just kind of this build-up, like, what's going to happen? Who's going to sign? And it's like, yep, another winter meetings came and gone. And, 3 minor league guys signed with 2 different teams. You're like, okay, well, that was a waste of time. And for the Rockies, it was obviously well beyond that. We go into January, and the front office had made a lot of good internal hires, or not internal hires, but hiring within like the organizations with Josh Burns and building out their staff. But now in January, they've really started to go after players. And so you get Lorenzen, you get Willie Castro, and now hopefully you get now a first baseman, which we've talked about. Paul Goldschmidt, Nathaniel Lowe, Luis Ariz are 3 different options that I don't think you can really go wrong for, because they're probably all going to be pretty inexpensive. They're going to be guys that you're going to sign to a 1 or 2 year deal. And again, the hope is when you sign at first base, it raises the floor, but it's kind of a guy that can pass that baton to Charlie Condon when he's ready. So that's one of the moves. The second of which is maybe you get another starting pitcher. Because let's face it, this starting rotation is anything but solidified. There's so much that could happen between now and opening day, and there's only a few guys we know for sure will be starters. So why not go out and look at trying to acquire another starting pitcher? Again, you're probably not going to get a guy that is a Cy Young worthy player, but you could get someone that's interesting. Chris Paddock could be interesting. He's got a good extension, still has a decent velocity. He's not a great ground ball pitcher, and so that's the concern. Lucas Giolito is another pitcher that you look at, also not a great ground ball pitcher. And so that's, I think, the concerning thing is you look at some of the guys that are left, and either they don't have great velocity. Some of the pitches they use just won't be great at Coors Field. So that's obviously one of the downsides to kind of what's left from these veteran pitchers. You just can't expect the world. But what you can hopefully expect is just try to stabilize things out. And that's really the hope here. So, Paddock could be really interesting. Giolito could be interesting. But again, these aren't guys that are going to be brought in expected to have a sub-4, sub-3.5 ERA. It'd be great if they did, but I just wouldn't expect that. But those could be interesting moves. And then you obviously could look to get 1 or 2 more veteran relievers, just to shore up the bullpen a little bit more. So the Rockies aren't losing games like 10-8, which will still probably happen. But I think those are all moves that we should expect this front office to look into. And we'll talk a little bit more, but what a great first off season for this front office, especially now that we've seen some of the moves come in. But now let's talk about a move that for some reason overshadowed the Willie Castro signing, which I thought that was going to be the signing of the week. I thought it would be on MLB Network for a week long. The Rockies make the best signing of free agency. But no. LA Dodgers, somehow they found $240 million just burning a hole in their back pocket, and have tossed that Kyle Tucker's way for a 4-year, $240 million contract. And the LA Dodgers are just totally loaded. Tucker's probably like the 5th best batter in that lineup. That team is just there's not much you can say. And we'll kind of jump into it in this last topic. I'm trying to save it for the last topic, but I'm just focusing on the NL West. NL West has made a lot of moves. The Diamondbacks make a move to try to be competitive. The Giants are being rumored to try to land Donovan from St. Louis. They're all trying to make moves. The Padres will be competitive. The Dodgers just remain king of this division. And the money speaks. The Dodgers they just have the money that no other team has. And that's the argument is, well, why don't these other owners spend? The Dodgers spend. Why don't these other owners spend? And, you see it a little from Toronto. Toronto's obviously got a crap ton of money. New York teams, I should say. But let's face it, there's not the same type of TV deals in Kansas City that you'll see in New York or in LA, right? There's just disparities that you can't make up for. And that's not to say there aren't really cheap owners, because there are very cheap owners in Major League Baseball. And we'll just jump into this last topic about a potential lockout in 2027, because if you look anywhere online, whether that be Threads, Twitter, you Google search, if you still use pigeons to get your news, they're squawking about. That feels like a lockout is looming, man. Feels like a lockout is looming. Because a no salary cap league, in just my opinion, is just bad. And more fans seem pretty upset about this Kyle Tucker and signing. And now there are fans that are saying, hey, all these other owners could do the same thing. But I just don't think that's the case. I just don't think some of these owners that aren't cheap just have the ability to spend the way that the Dodgers do. And, for the Dodgers to have Shohei defer that contract, which is crazy that Manfred allows that, so they can just, you look at the spending on the Dodgers and it blows your mind. And you compare it to any other sports team. I like to use the NBA as a comparison, because the contracts that NBA players get is crazy. And now roster size is smaller on the NBA, and I get it. But ultimately, one of the big things for, an NBA team or an NFL team, hockey, you have to manage contracts. You have to be able to say, hey, if we're spending a lot of money on our top 3 players, the rest of our roster is going to struggle because we only have this amount of resources to put towards them, right? So it's kind of that game of, well, if I'm putting money here, I have to take a risk of this part of the team not being as solid or as strong. Or in the NFL, hey, we have this rookie quarterback who's on a cheap contract. We can build out the rest of our team. Once this quarterback gets good, we're going to have to pay him, and the rest of our team is going to struggle. MLB, you're just going to have to pay a tax. And so for some of these really rich teams, they're like, they'll pay the tax. That's not a problem. And so there's just this disparity here. And it's not an apples-to-apples situation. Obviously, the leagues are different. There's different things that affect each league. And so it's not fair to draw complete comparisons like that. But there really does need to be some form of salary cap and floor. Because right now what we're seeing is pretty unbelievable. Because let's also face it, people probably want to live in LA over Kansas City, over Denver, over a lot of places in the US. And it also, you're also going to pay me more than all these other teams? I get to play for the best team in baseball. I get paid more than all these other teams. It's a huge problem. But the owners want a salary cap from what it looks like, but the players don't, because the hard thing is if you put it a salary cap, that means what top dollar is, the players will suffer there. Maybe not the best players, but players that are maybe more in the middle of the pack, they're going to get smaller contracts. So you do get it from a player's perspective because they want to have that earning power. but a change does need to be made. And I don't know if Manfred is the guy for the job. I just don't know. He just hasn't done anything as a commissioner that gives you a lot of confidence. And how the Dodgers have just kind of run rampant with this roster. And you do have to give him credit because, look, the Mets and the Yankees spend a lot too. And they haven't won anything. But look, Toronto's was in that World Series game, and they spent, the second most last year, which was still like millions and millions of dollars less than the Dodgers. It just feels like a lockout is looming. Fans are unhappy. And how do you bring in future fans, right? If someone who's interested in sports, they're getting familiar with it, they look at baseball and they just see, the team that's paying the most is just clearly win. And maybe the Dodgers aren't winning every year, but they're still winning 100+ games every year. It just takes out some of that parity. And that's where you credit a league like the NBA and Adam Silver, which has its own problems. And there are plenty of issues that, if this was a basketball channel, we would talk about it, but it's not. But they have focused on a league of parity, and that's what you're seeing in the NBA is a lot of parity. The NFL is a league of parity, right? And the MLB for a long time had a lot of great parity. Now, you had the supervillains in the Houston Astros, and you've had the villains of the LA Dodgers, but with 2 straight World Series wins, usually when you win a championship, you lose players because they go and sign contracts elsewhere. But not for the Dodgers. They've just reloaded. They keep their guys, and then they go and pay for more. They get better after winning World Series, which is the exact opposite of what happens for really any other franchise in any other sport. And that to me just doesn't make any sense. That just isn't how it works really in sports. And that's just because there's no salary cap. And the Dodgers are a well-run organization. And that is part of it. They're just really well-run. And with the current rules in place, they know how to win. And that you can't fault them for. But there are just disparities that they just are able to spend more than some of the other teams. So, it's a long rant, but it is going to be interesting where we're going to play out this 2026 season. And unless changes are made, I think there's a really real chance that we'll be in store for a lockout. And if that's the case, I don't know what happens then. Which is devastating because we want to see the rise of the Colorado Rockies. But until then, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of the rant. If you agree or disagree, leave a comment below. We want this to be a place where you share your opinion, whether you love it, you hate it. Regardless, I want there to be a conversation. So, anyways, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful MLK Day. And I will see you tomorrow.